The biggest reason I found to write a mini book is for the creator, kind of the visionary. It forces you to put your message in a bottle, in essence. Like, it forces that encapsulation. You cannot write a mini book if you don't know what you're talking about.
This is Virtuous Leaders, the podcast for based Catholics who will speak truth, do good, or die trying. Here's the show. You teach entrepreneurs how to write best-selling mini books. Can you share that with the audience?
Yeah, well, absolutely. It's not as clear-cut as what it sounds like, but basically a mini book, for those who don't know, is a book between 5,000 and 15,000 words. So most nonfiction books for kind of qualification is usually 30,000 and above. So if you read a light nonfiction book, it's like about 30,000 words. And then a mini book is kind of cutting that down in half or less. And the goal is to make sure someone can finish it in one setting, basically, a 1 to 1.5 hour read. And so that's what I kind of walk people through is that style of book transformed how I approached my business and how long it took me to get done.
Even a 1 to 1.5 hour book can be intimidating to a lot of people. So let's just take my example. I'm an entrepreneur. I have a podcast, therapy practice. I do public speaking. So why would I write a mini book? How would I go about doing that?
Well, why would be a lot of different reasons, but the biggest reason I found to write a mini book is for the creator, kind of the visionary. It forces you to put your message in a bottle, in essence. Like, it forces that encapsulation. You cannot write a mini book if you don't know what you're talking about. And so it is my flushing out process of like, hey, here's how I get my message into the world, or here's how I practice my therapy, right? This is how I handle complicated cases, or this is how I consult people on marriage, whatever the case is, right? And so it just really makes you be succinct. Now, how you go about doing that, that's a whole other ball of yarn, but I can give you really high level how I walk people through it. Is the first thing is I would go, okay, you teach, you perform therapy, you consult with people about their marriage or whatever the topic is. What's your core framework? Like what is it that you're trying to teach, and fit it into one of 3 outlines. And so I found that by limiting myself to, you think of it as a painting, to one of 3 canvas sizes, you're forced to color and build within a restricted space, rather than feeling like I can do anything I want. By only allowing people to choose one of 3 outlines, it forces them into a box that makes them get creative then. And so the 3 outlines is, one is the W's model. So you ask the questions, what, when, where, why, who, how, right? All those standard questions. And those are your chapter titles. In essence, you might hide the who in it. You might call it something different as a chapter title, but you're giving people your framework through that lens. And it really makes it easy to start writing it. So for me, what is a mini book? Who should write and read mini books? Who should write a mini book, right? How do you write a mini book? You can all of a sudden see how this is a book, just asking those questions. Chapter titles, right? Really fast. The other one is sequential. So if you have a 10-step process to, performing a consultation with someone, or offering a therapy conversation, or how to get somebody to feel comfortable in an office even, right? There might be 10 steps to that. It's how the chairs are positioned, the lighting, the music. Well, it's 10 steps, up to 10 steps, and then that's a sequential book. So each step is a chapter. And then the last one is then the 10 problems and solutions. So in your case, it might be, the biggest problems I face are teens don't want to talk. And when they do talk, they're just lying because they know I'm going to tell their parents. And so, like, these are different problems, right, that you probably have solutions to. So you list out 10 of those, and that's your chapters. And so once we have an outline, we just go through real simple, 3 points per chapter, 3 subpoints per point, go write the book. And then most of the time you get it done in a week or 2.
You said 10 points per chapter, 3 subpoints per point?
3 points per chapter.
Gotcha.
And then 3 subpoints per point. So total of kind of 9 points, if you will, or subpoints per chapter. but that forces you to write in a really tight space. And so you can't go on a long tangent about the history of psychology that's going to take the reader off track. You got to go, okay, the first thing we're doing is making sure the chairs are set up in a way that the person feels comfortable. Here's how I do that. You're like jumping right in rather than going on a long monologue.
Yeah, I love those 3 outlines, and they actually map on very well to my hustles, like the W's model: who, what, when, why. I think that maps onto the Virtuous Leaders podcast. The sequential could be walking people through how I do treatment for OCD, and then the 10 problems and solutions. That could be a mini book for my talk on how do you save your family from digital destruction. So, because it's also often framed in terms of challenges that parents face in those areas.
Yeah, absolutely. You just nailed it. And the big thing that most people, when they're trying to decide, well, what book should I write? What outline should I use? It's like, start with your big roadmap, right? Whatever that is. So if you have an overarching theory, for me, it's, what I just outlined is my writing philosophy, right? Or in my past business where I first learned to write mini books, I was writing a roadmap for how independent adjusters get work. It was 7 steps. And so it was like, here's the 7 steps, but now what I can do is I can write a book about each one of those steps. So the first book was the roadmap book. It's the big picture, but then each one of your 10 problems, as an example, could potentially be its own book, right? Mm-hmm. How do you restrict time on a cell phone without making your teen feel like he's a third world citizen or whatever it is, like whatever that is, you could dive deep on that one thing, but it's still the same framework, just now on that one problem. But that forcing of it's only one problem per mini book makes it stay tight, under 15,000 words, makes it easy to flow.
Why mini book as a marketing strategy?
So if I am looking at who should I listen to in our crazy world of nonstop AI, nonstop noise, let's just call it what it is, content coming at us at all times, I tend to look for someone who has demonstrated true competency in a topic. And so if I'm going to go learn about whether it be LinkedIn or funnels or whatever, I tend to gravitate towards who has books. Why? Because I can find out in 20 minutes probably if this person is actually a place I should trust. Like, I can pick up that book and I am right in their best stuff. And if this isn't good, throw it out, on to the next one, right? Like, I'm done. I could spend 6 months with somebody on LinkedIn watching their posts or Facebook watching their posts. It doesn't really give you a true sense of what their strategy is or what their overall philosophy is. So for me, as a marketing strategy, it is my client filter. When I put a book out there, I'm saying, this is my mindset. This is my strategy. I've given you the full playbook here. Now, if you want to work together, you already know what I'm about. Let's talk, right? Versus, I don't know, you might see one of my LinkedIn posts and go, I don't even know what this guy's about. He wrote this book and he wrote this book and then he wrote this other one over there. And now he's pushing this new podcast. I don't know what this guy's about. When you grab one of my books,
sounds like me.
He is about doing this, right? Well, I'm the same way, right? I've got God is Like books, which is Christian devotional like books. I've got books on writing and I've got insurance books. And if you don't pick up one book and see that framework or philosophy start to finish, you start to get confused. Is this the person I want to work with? You don't really know. You're only getting one little piece of it.
So if the mini book is part of the sales funnel, do you offer it for free then, or do you charge? If so, how much do you charge?
I've given books away for free. I typically, you think of a funnel, which is, funnels are all the rage and now they're on like the decline. I think of it more as a flywheel. So when I write a book, it is all of my best stuff, my framework that I've learned and, hopefully through tons of trial and error, right? Built expertise in something. And now I've condensed it down. But then, like I mentioned with the roadmap book, it is a flywheel because now I can create content off of that. I don't have to think, what do I need to talk about? If it's not in that book, I probably shouldn't talk about it. If I'm giving a webinar, it should be from that book. If I'm doing, it's from that book. So it is a funnel in the sense of like it's helping people decide if they want to work with me. But for me, it is like my business operations center. Here's my book. This is what I talk about. Nothing else. If I want to talk about something different related to this, I've got to write a new book that builds onto this core concept. And so by doing that, yes, it can build a funnel of coaching clients coming to you, but more than that, it builds a flywheel that allows you to stay consistent long enough that people go, I get what this guy's about. I do want to work with him. And so I kind of back off the funnel concept of giving stuff away, like as a lead magnet. You could do that to build your email list, which is very valuable early on. But over time, what you find is someone who pays $2.99 or $4.99 for a book ends up being the coaching client, not the $2,000 you gave away for free, right? So there's kind of different strategies of what you do with the book. Giving away is usually a great way to get reviews and, traction, maybe Amazon paying attention to it, but it's not a great way to get clients typically. It just isn't. People don't read free stuff. How much free stuff is on Paramount Plus? My wife and I got it for free when we signed up for Walmart Plus the other day. And we go and look, we're like, ugh, garbage. It was within 2 minutes. This is garbage. I'm not wasting my time on it, right? I'll go rent the movie I want. That's garbage, right? And so I just think people don't appreciate free. We have too much content in the world. If someone doesn't raise their hand and go, I want your book and I'm willing to pay $3, probably not going to be a great client. But there's other reasons to give it away. But when trying to get leads and clients, that's what I'm looking at, trying to charge something for it and put it on Amazon, because that's what builds the credibility. If you don't have it publicly on a platform like that, it's to the human psyche like saying, yeah, I sell this on Etsy. Your diehards, if you can find them, will be all excited about it. But the moment you hit an Amazon shelf, hey, yeah, I'm in Amazon or I'm in a Walmart shelf, right? Like as seen on TV, and now it's in Walmart. Oh, that's a legit product now. This, it just, the human psyche says that. So if your book isn't on Amazon or on these digital bookstores that people look for things at for reviews and things, a lot of times your credibility takes a hit. A white paper or an ebook on a website feels spammy 1998, 2001. It's not, modern day where it's like, no, I'm legit. I'm right next to Alex Hormozy on the list. Cool. Like very different to the human psyche that way.
Dude, you're a great speaker and salesman. So what is good pricing for a mini book?
So going back, it all depends on your goals. If you're wanting as many reviews as possible, which is valuable to build credibility for a different reason, when you get those high value clients looking at your book, I go free to $1.99 or $2.99 because Amazon will only give you 70% of the royalties if you're $2.99 and above. So $2.99 tends to be where you want to fall if you actually want to see a nickel from Amazon come through. Other than that, I tend to try to go between $2.99 and $4.99 for kind of, I'll call it run of the mill, not insultingly. My own books are in that price range, but to low level problems. So like a lot of people help you learn how to write a book. I'm not the first guy to do that, right? I have it from a different angle, a different slant, but it's not a $1 million problem. Versus if I go to buy how to perform brain surgery book, that better be a little more expensive, right? Or if I'm going to how to save my $1 million project from collapsing, that's a different value level, perceived value right away. So I have books that are priced at $24.99 because they're valuable in a niche space and they kind of sit there on their own. But that's not the masses, right? That's not, by and large, most books we write fall in that category. But if you can prove that this book's worth that, hey, do it.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking is maybe for my potential OCD clients, that would be the $24.99 book. For the digital instruction, that could be more like the $4.99, and the virtuous leaders, where it's more just like introducing people to my podcast, that would be the free to $2.99.
Right. Exactly. You're thinking about this correctly. And if you're just doing ebook, let me course correct a little. I said $24.99. That was for like paperbacks. So like I have ones that are more expensive, but ebook, once you get above $9.99, Amazon takes away that 70% royalty. So you have to charge like $22 to make the same money you would at $9, which just doesn't make sense because you're going to get way less sales. So for an ebook, I will usually put it at max $9.99 on as the ebook, but the paperback's going to be much higher, which in your case with OCD clients will probably be what they lean towards, because it's a medical manual rather than like, here's how to organize your room or here's how to write a book that you can just skim through on Kindle. It's probably going to be something they want to tangibly hold.
Okay, interesting. So what is the purpose? Can you help me understand a little bit better why the hard copy book? If the royalties are the same with this, like from $9.99 to $22.99.
Well, so if you price your ebook at $24.99 or $20 or something like that, you're going to make the same amount as a $9.99 book. But if you put your paperback, they allow that to be higher. So without penalizing you. So now you're making better royalties on the physical book if somebody orders it because it has more intrinsic value because it's a physical product they're getting rather than just a digital file on their phone.
Okay, all right. So don't charge any more than $9.99 on the ebook. But do you get? I might have misunderstood this. Do you get less royalties for the paperback book than an ebook?
Just depends on your pricing structure. They kind of, because they are the printer, usually you're usually using Amazon to also print on demand. So they will print the book, ship it for you, and you do nothing other than write the book and put it up there. So if I'm charging $24.99, I'm making a pretty good royalty, usually better than even my $9.99 book. Yeah. It's a different pricing structure, but there's no penalty. There's not that extreme penalty for being more for a physical product.
Okay, I gotcha. All right. Yeah. So when it comes to marketing, there's so many different options. I mean, you got email newsletter, you got podcasts, you got social media, you got mini book. How do you decide which one to prioritize?
For me, it comes down to what my lifestyle best represents. My wife and I today were sitting down trying to organize our day because we live on a sailboat, if you guys can't tell, and we're traveling around full time. And I knew this podcast was today, and we're like, okay, try to rearrange our day around a recording. Like, where's the 4-year-old going to be? Guys, can you be quiet long enough to do like podcasts are really hard for me. So I only do one a month. And so this is the one I'm doing this month for mini books.
Appreciate it.
But I can write from 4:30 in the morning to 7:30 in the morning every morning if I want to, and it doesn't wake anybody up. That's how I've written 30 books. That's how, is because I have that time and it fits my lifestyle. So for me, that's a real strength. Now you might be sitting there going, I don't have 3 hours a morning and I wouldn't want to spend it on writing a book. I still think mini books are valuable. And here's why is a podcast, and I have a podcast for 7-8 years now, since 2016. How many years that is? A long time. Going on 9 years in October. And so that did a lot for me building my network up. And I'm sure you found the same thing. I'm talking with you. We've never really talked much before, but now we're familiar with each other. So it's a great way to build up your network and build credibility that way. Together, kind of getting to know the industry and scaling up. And so I love podcasts for that. Writing a book is different. Once I wrote a book, people started going and saying, I want you on my podcast. Like me having a podcast got me access to people, but then they started searching me out when I had a book, and people started buying my products when they had a book, because the first turn when you want to make revenue in a business that you got to make is what I call the credibility climb. Is you're just like, to get around that first corner, it's like hell. It's so hard to get someone to trust you with their money. And so a book is just for whatever reason, because writing's been around since the cavemen, I actually get on walls, people perceive the written word differently than they do if it's strictly viewed as digital, right? A podcast, a YouTube video. No one thinks Mr. Beast is going to be around in 3,000 years. The Bible's been around a long time, right? And it literally changes people's lives every day. And that's not the only book that's been around thousands of years. We don't think that's going to be the same probably with YouTube or podcasts, but something about the written word being the fundamental way we communicate, it does something to people. And they go, he knows what he's talking about. I can see it. There's no glitz and glamour. It's text on a page. It's how culture and community has been passed on forever. So there's just something about that from a credibility standpoint that I think you just can't replace with other types of content. Even if you only do one, you don't have to do 30 like me. I'm just crazy. But you can just do one to say, this is who I am. This is what I believe. And then you kind of put that flag in the ground. And then just people suddenly will think of your ideas and you differently after that.
Quick practical question. What's the minimum you would charge for a hard copy book?
I think Amazon recently changed their rules around that. So I'm probably saying it's around $7. you're not going to charge less than $7. I've charged $4.99 for books. Some of mine are still up for that, but I make no royalties off of them. So since the update that Amazon came out with, I haven't changed that pricing structure on those books. So you've got to be careful. You just got to kind of play with your royalty rates. It'll tell you when you go to publish your book on Amazon and go like, hey, I want to make at least this much per book, whether it be $2, $3, $5, $7. How do I get there?
So are your book sales beneficial financially for you or in their own right, or is it mostly just for the Flywheel?
So for context, my 5 books that are in the mini book series, that's kind of my newest series. It's been around 2-3 years. It generates about, since I started focusing on trying to get it and make revenue, it generates almost $1,000 a month in royalties, those 5 books. But then I make, about $1,000 off the community that's built on the backside of that, because I charge $35 a month to write those books for people months early. So like I have a book coming out in September. I wrote it for my community in March and dripped it out. And they've had it for months. And then now I'm finally releasing it to Amazon a month later. And then I usually, based on other businesses and this one, when you have some kind of book out there, you get coaching clients if you want them. So like I had people beating down my door, and I don't say I offer coaching anywhere. Can you coach me? And so I've got clients that are paying me $2,500 a month to just meet with them weekly and guide them on their book and help them with different facets of it. And so that's, from a business flywheel perspective, it's really just a bridge. And if you can even, the old adage in funnels is if you can break even on your funnel, and then your real product is, in my case, coaching, because it's the most profitable, then you got all those leads, all those customers for free in theory. And so now I'm able to do that. But I don't actually spend much money on ads. I usually spend $200 to $250 a month. That's what I try to do. So about 25%. If you think the 80-20 rule, 20% to get 80% results. I don't find it scales equally if I spend more.
Exactly. So if people want to really commit to writing a mini book, what's the next step for them?
First thing is, if you want help, go to, Amazon, type in mini book writing. You'll find my book. That one is actually like me sitting there saying, now choose an outline. Here's the 3 you get to choose from, right? It's really a coach in a book. And it takes you all the way through the writing process, a done manuscript. And then I have other
mini book writing.
Mini book writing. Yep.
Gotcha.
And so each book in my series tackles one problem. So after that, you're going to have to learn how to publish it. Okay. Mini book publishing. We'll walk you through that, right? So if you're serious about writing a mini book and you're like, I want to write it, but I just don't know how, that's the book. If you're like, I want to understand high level, what are you talking about? Why? Like, it was a cool interview. I don't really get it. I would go grab mini book model. So that's on Amazon. It has over 100 reviews. And that was the first book I wrote. And it's kind of high level. This is what a mini book is. This is the history of mini books, from Solomon to Thomas Paine to, Napoleon Hill to now Category Pirates and myself. And it kind of takes you through why I think it works. And so that's kind of the strategy. And so it's probably going to be one of those 2 things. And if you want more involvement from there, you can head to minibook.news. We have a free and paid newsletter there. So that's kind of the ways to get started, but you got to know what your expertise is. Like you knew there's 3 things I could write about. If I went and interviewed you right now, I could say, okay, well, tell me about this. What's the first thing you do when you're getting ready to meet with somebody who has OCD? And what's your process of talking to somebody and helping them with that? You would know, right? Because you have years of expertise. And a lot of times we overcomplicate writing a book into thinking it's going to take months or years. No, you spent the months or years getting the expertise. Now we're just trying to get it out of you. And most books that take months or years, I have some of them. Mini book marketing was one. Oh, not mini book marketing. Goodness. God is Like marketing was one. God is Like a Box of Crayons was one. Those took months and months to write because I didn't know it intuitively. I had to do research. But mini book writing, 7 days. Mini book model, 3 days. Wow. God is Like a Geyser, 3 days. And that's a 30, 40,000 word book. It was more than a mini book. But if you're just extracting what you already know, don't overcomplicate this. Tell it like you're talking to us on a couch. This is how you do what I do.
Wow, that's impressive, man. So How many hours does that take? 3 hours a day for 3 days?
Well, no, the 3-day one, no. That was not. It typically it takes me about 14 to 15 hours per mini book of writing time and seat. The big thing that people brush past, and
It's
I
not
see them
bad.
struggle with all the time, is not nailing the outline down. If you have a good outline, the way I described it, here's your chapters, it makes sense, it's logical in some way, and then you have 3 points per chapter written down, and then 3 points per sub point written down, whether that's tell the story about the time I met with John at the fishing pond, right? That's a sub point. It's your story. You're going to write, if you read mini book writing, exactly a certain number of sentences for that. And I walk you down to literally the number of sentences you should write. But it forces you to, when you go to sit down to write, you're like, okay, I have 10 sentences here to make this point. What am I going to say? And Chris says I should start with a hook. It's got to be something to catch him. Cool. Then move into the meat and potatoes of the thing. Okay, now what's the sweet dessert I can end this thing with? One awesome sentence. And you're like, I have to really make sure I know my crap, And so what it does is it allows your brain to just forget everything else and go, I'm only worried about point 1 in chapter 1, sub point 1. That's it. 10 sentences, let's go. And so if you can do that, you have the outline, it kind of lets your brain take over.
This is amazing. And I can see how going through that disciplined thought process would make me better at explaining things when I'm speaking on this topic or when I'm speaking to a potential client. It just structures the mind more clearly.
Which is what it does for your readers too. That's why they love it. Is instead of, 6, 7 paragraphs about the story about what the bricks in New York look like as I walked into this meeting, and I thought about how Trump met in this same place, and you're like, where's he going with this? Your brain's already thinking that, and you can kind of skip all that and go, here's what we're talking about. Here's the point we're talking about. Let's get into it. And you get it over in a few sentences, and I walk you through a cadence that actually is more social media friendly, copywriting friendly, to where you're hooking the reader, you're giving them 3 sentences of the details of what you're talking about, and you're giving them a clean dessert, as what I call it. So it's a 3-course meal is what you're giving them. You give them a nice sweet dessert ending, and then you do 2 of those per sub point. And if you do that, the reader has this natural flow and cadence. Versus as authors, we naturally, sometimes in podcast interviews, I'll do it too, is we do what? We naturally talk too much. We don't leave space for the other person. And reading, there needs to be space for that reader to go, he made a good point. But if you don't pause, if you don't give dramatic effect for the ending of the thought, and you just keep hitting them with a 10-sentence paragraph over and over, the wall of text exhausts the brain. And so I don't know all the psychology behind that. I just know as a reader, that's what it does to me.
Yeah, great. You spoke a little bit about flywheel versus funnel. I've heard funnel a lot, flywheel a little bit. Why one versus the other?
Well, I think it has more to do with what it's turned into than the reality of it, right? Sometimes you have to change the language to get people to think about it differently and to break the bad habits that are ingrained with a funnel. When I think funnel, and I love Russell Brunson, you probably know who Russell Brunson is, love his stuff. His stuff helped me get up and running. He's the Alex Hormozi's mentor. He's one of the guys who helped Alex Hormozi break through the ceiling. And now Alex Hormozi's bigger than him, right? It's crazy. But when you follow the funnel logic, it's like, hey, you're here. You came into my house. You trusted me enough to come in the door with a lead magnet or whatever. Do you want some apple pie? And they're like, no, I'm good. Well, do you want a turkey? No, I'm good. Do you want to go swimming? No, I'm good. You're kind of hitting them really fast with offer after offer. If you've ever done anything on Vistaprint, that experience cements me what a funnel is, right? Even though it could be classier than that. When I think funnel, I think, do you want business cards? A magnet. And you're like, skip, I just want to buy the thing, right? Versus a flywheel says, hey, you're coming over next week. We'll hang out again. No big deal. And then they're like, well, can I come over again, please? Like they want to come back. They want to experience more. And it just tends to be a more relationship driven thing just because of psychology. It could practically be the same thing. I have a book to a lead magnet to a coaching call. That's my funnel, basically, right? But I'm not trying to pressure those into one moment of time. I'm trying to say, experience my book, see if you like me first. Now, let's have coffee in a safe environment. That's a lead magnet. Now you want to come over for dinner? Let's have a call, right? And so to me, it's just a more natural flow of how humans interact versus how the internet evolved from 2000 on.
What is your lead magnet after the book?
All depends on the book. I try to give something that's so valuable that they can't say no to if they're actually going to use the book. So an example in mini book writing, I have a template I give my coaching clients, which is, I named the 3 outlines. It is literally the template in a Google Doc. Okay, put sub point 1 here, or, chapter here, 1 here.
Nice.
Point 1 here, sub point 1 here. And here's the sentence structure that you need to do. So literally you open up and you just start filling in the blanks rather than, going and doing something else. Other ones, it gives away a chat GPT template to generate your book blurb instantly based on me researching 50 book descriptions and going, what is the common thread here? Well, sweet. So I've reverse engineered where it's so easy when you get done writing your book, you don't have to stress about how do I do a book description or I got to hire somebody for $200. Like, no, here's a proven template. Put your manuscript in it and it'll spit it out and it'll be really good. Then you just kind of tweak it. So it just depends on the book, what it is. It's something of value that I could charge for.
And that's like the last page of the book or something like that?
So typically, sometimes I'll put it, depending on the book, at the beginning or about 25% of the way through, I'll mention it in a chapter. Oh, and if you need help, choosing your outline or you want the templates of this already pre-built in a Google Doc, you click here, you get the mini book writing kit or whatever, and then they click there and they go do it. Or they go type in minibook-writing.com.
In your mini book, do you get into these ideas?
I do. Well, they all at the different stages, right? The problem most people have is, who's on this call, we've covered from philosophy of books versus starting a podcast to publishing to now marketing to funnels. And it's like their brain goes, I want to do all that. And they do none of it because they're overwhelmed. And so what my books do is they really try to go, let's write the book. And at the very end of the book, I say, you need a lead magnet. Here's some ideas of how to do that.
Got it.
But it's not deep on that. And then the next book is publishing. Here's how to publish it. The next book's marketing. Yeah. And so in marketing, I go deeper on that than I do in writing because I don't want them to get lost in creating a lead magnet. I want their book to be done.
Yeah. Dude, I respect the hustle, man. What you put together is great. And then how do you get
I hope it just helps people.
Yeah. How do you get from the lead magnet then to the coaching call?
That is not a structured funnel at all because I don't technically offer coaching, right? Like that's just people pursuing, emailing. I really want to work with you. Some of my heroes approached me. Coolest story. God's insane how he works that way. As I was like not doing coaching, I'm like, I want this to be total hands off, right? The internet dream all over again. Let's do hands off everything. And my heroes, authors that I absolutely love, Al Ramadan and Christopher Lochhead of Play Bigger and Category Pirates, they came and they were like, hey, we want you to help us write and publish our book because it's a mini book and we know you're the mini book guy. And I'm like, you guys are big time authors. Like, but they're like, but it's a mini book. You understand what goes into this. We just want you to be the quarterback. And I'm like, I don't do that. And they're like, how much you want? And I'm like, I get to work with my heroes and get paid to do it. I thought I was going to be doing this for free. And so from there, it kind of evolves to like, okay, yeah, I kind of do coaching. This is how, and then it just keeps refining, but it's not to me a hard sell thing rather than it is with a flywheel. You have your email list. They're on that list. You're emailing them at least weekly. You could check out Simple Online Business Model. That's the book I wrote that talks about my cadence of running a business. And it's centered around at least a weekly newsletter. Once a week, you send it out. If you do that, you have an active running business that won't collapse, basically. But just keep feeding that list. And from there, occasional, if I want a new coaching client, then slip in there hey, here's how you can schedule a call with me to find out about your book or to see how I can help you sell more copy, whatever it is, right? But it's usually just a subtle in passing, but you could build that as a lead curation system, right? 12 emails. And then in the last one, it's like, hey, schedule a call to talk with me personally. And they're like, if they're still hanging on after 12 emails, they're probably really excited to talk with you. And so they click that button and reschedule a call. But that's how I did it in my other business, the previous business.
And then do you get into where social media posts falls in here? Because I see that you do post on LinkedIn. That's in the simple online business model.
So that would be simple online business model talks about it. That was more literally, I said the biggest benefit is to us. I wrote that book because I was like, I was overwhelmed with my original business, which I still run. And I was like, what do I have to do to keep this thing going? Because it's really helping people, but I'm wanting to pursue this mini book thing. So I was like, what have I done that successfully has ran this thing for the last 6-7 years? Mapped it out, figured out a way to make it spell simple, and then wrote a book about it. And that's the manual I go to when I feel overwhelmed. I grab my own book and I go, send an email once a week, 3 posts a week at least. Okay. If I have struggle posting these, it's there. And then in mini book marketing, I talk more specifically how you take your book and then create social media content with it. But both of them talk about it, just in different lenses.
Just to understand Flywheel better, you mentioned Vistaprint as the prototype of the funnel. Is there like a prototypical example of the Flywheel that we would be familiar with?
Flywheel that the common person would be familiar with. I mean, Netflix is kind of a type of flywheel, right? If you're in there, you like some of their movies, they create more movies, it gets them more revenue because they tell more people about it. They just create more movies. I mean, they got weird and started doing games in there. I don't think that's helping them much, but that's a traditional flywheel is you do content, that content gets more people who goes and gets more people for you, and you create more content based on what you see. Oh, they like this type of documentary. Let's double down on documentaries. That's a flywheel rather than a funnel is, hey, now that, a traditional funnel on Netflix is, hey, you've watched this, now watch this, right? It's a little different. And so a flywheel is more about, let's just keep giving them what they already want and not worry about if they're buying it today so much.
Okay. Amazing. I could talk for hours on the mini book thing, but I think I should just buy your book at this point and probably multiple of your books. But I do want to hear, so do you mind if I ask how many kids you have?
I have 3 kids.
So you got 3 kids in a sailboat right now. What? Just can we just understand that a little bit better? That sounds awesome.
I don't even understand.
This is your
myself,
way of life. You homeschool your kids in a sailboat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the big thing for us in our life was like, I had a kind of corporate job. I was a 1099 contractor, but I was like a regional manager making great money. And I was just like, I just want to be around my kids. I'm sick of being around everybody else all the time. And like the whole world should revolve around taking people to basketball games or whatever. Like that's what my company wanted to do. And I was like, that's not what I want to do. I want to be around my kids. And how I measure success is how many days away from my kids working that I have to do. And so like, I haven't had to work away from my kids in years. Like, so that to me is success. I'm paying the bills and my kids are seeing me work day in and day out. Kind of like the old school farm, but it's a little bit different, right? They help me sometimes with coaching clients. They'll help me with book covers, do book descriptions in AI, that kind of thing. But it's, to me, that's just the value. You mentioned in one of the notes that we might talk about values. Like to me, that was a big value to choosing to do an online business is how can it be around my kids? And it had to do with getting the cost of living down, a lot of it. We're adventurous in spirit, obviously. We're on a sailboat bouncing around right now. But to me, it also has to do with cost of living coming down. We travel full time. We don't stay at docks most of the time. So people are like, you're not paying for docks? What are you paying for? I'm literally anchored in Annapolis, right outside all the warships right now, right outside the Naval Academy. I can hear them in the morning when they wake up. I start working out and stuff. But it just allows us to be more flexible with how we raise our kids, how we run our business. And so we're like literally anchor right now, like Columbus, like people are like, you can still live like that? Like, yes, you can. And for us, it's a slower pace of life to where we literally have to decide, what are we doing today? If I'm doing an interview today, I just took a lot off the table. We can't travel out in the ocean today, right? Like we have to go get water today. Okay, that's a whole 3-hour affair to make sure we have water, right? Stuff like that. Like, and so you're forced to make decisions not about which next show to watch or what, TikTok video to swipe. It's literally like back to the fundamentals. And so for us, that's been immensely rewarding, even though I run a digital business and it's tons of, that kind of vibe. To us, it pulls us back to the reality of like, okay, this is fundamentals, water, food, emptying the toilet, that kind of stuff. Like, we're really fundamental here. The fundamentals of life here.
Speaking of the fundamentals of life, so you have written books on evangelizing. Can you just give us a couple of key points from that for the audience?
Wow. So when you mentioned that right before we got started, like that was the book that you're probably going to want to discuss at some point. I was like, oh man, I have not talked about that book a lot recently. So what he's referencing is a book called God is Like Marketing. And I have a book
you can also
series.
just go from the heart, man. Don't if you don't remember the book, don't worry about it. Yeah.
Oh, I know the book, but I want to like paint the context for everybody. So how it started was we went to Yellowstone, spent 2 months in Yellowstone as a family. We planned to spend 2 days. We saw there was not just a geyser, Old Faithful, there was hundreds of geysers. And we're like, there's something here that we didn't realize about life in general. And so we ended up staying 2 months because we travel full time. We can do that. And I planned on writing a book about it. I interviewed a bunch of people and I was planning to write about these people who watch the geysers all day, every day. They're called geyser gazers. And they're like the fanatics of geysers. They know everything about it, like citizen scientists, right? So cool. I was like, this is a book. And I told them I was going to write it. And they got mad. And they said, no, don't write about our way of life because then other outsiders will want it. We don't want outsiders. I was like, that's strange. And so I was like, I have all these notes. This whole time I've been looking at it through the lens of writing a book. So I shifted and I said, well, I got closer to God than ever here. Let me write a book called God is Like a Geyser. And it was, 30 ways, a 30-day devotional. I called it observational because it's less about, what we think about God and more about what we observe about God. And so 30 days about how God is like a geyser. And so that was that book. And then from there, I just kept writing books like that. And I got to God is Like Marketing. And I had this crazy idea that like, Jesus was the greatest marketer of all time. That is not up for debate. He's one dude in way back when who started with 12 followers. Okay, are we talking internet language here or what? Who now is like one of the biggest, if not the biggest religion in the world. And it's transformed everybody's life. And I was like, I wonder if there's principles in the Bible that would help internet marketers. Because I've studied internet marketing for years and years and years. I know all these things, all the things the gurus say. And so I dove in and each chapter kind of goes through literally how Jesus did his funnel, where the principle is in the Bible, and how internet marketers do it today to make them, to validate what they're doing and why it works. It's not just a fluke. Like, this is biblical principles at work that's just been twisted to fit earthly gain, Not necessarily a bad thing, but like these are biblical principles. And so that's what the book, God is Like Marketing, is all about, is that exploration. And none of this is like, I know it when I start to write it. It's I go observe it. I go explore. I dive in and I'm covering it with the reader as I'm writing it. And I'm like, this is crazy. So that's what the book's really about. And it ties in our job as evangelists, as Christians, into that story to where it's like, here's how we do that in our day-to-day lives. So kind of ties a bunch of things together under one umbrella.
Last question. Why would you write on Substack versus Medium or just having your own website where you put your blog?
Easier for people to find you. So Medium is very extremely competitive and you don't own your list. Substack, you own your list. If you sign up for my Substack and hit follow or subscribe or whatever the button is, subscribe, yeah, then it actually is, you are now on my list to where I can download it and move it and email you on a weekly basis, even if you leave Substack. You are my lead in essence. Whereas Medium, you are Medium's lead. You don't own the relationship with the reader. And so that's the main reason. Plus, it has a platform of people already on it that you can still be discovered, but then you're actually owning that relationship rather than leasing it from Facebook or Medium.
Do you own your content on Substack?
You can delete it. You own it. It's yours to keep. You aren't paying them or giving it away in any way, shape, or form. You can paywall what you want to paywall. You can hide what you want to hide. So yeah, you own it. It's yours.
You can publish it elsewhere.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And people do that. Some people publish it on Substack first and then go publish it on Medium or somewhere else. And so that the way they get the dual purpose. But Substack was the original place it was posted.
Okay. So is there any disadvantage to using Substack?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So something like Kit, it used to be called ConvertKit, and now they're called Kit.
Yeah.
You're able to build automated email sequences. So you sign up, you grab my lead magnet, MiniBook writing kit. I can set 12 emails in motion to go to you every single day for the next 12 days. Substack, you can't do that. Substack does not have automation like that built in. So it's literally an email scheduled out, and you could schedule it out, but you can't do it per person. So it's your whole list is getting this email. So there's no individual emails to people. So you use it as a content delivery platform and hub, kind of a Flywheel, right? It's the Flywheel home, but it is not great for actually automation and building and warming up your list over time individually to that person.
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, this was a super informative conversation, man. Thank you. And also inspiring just to hear how you raise your family. Really impressive.
Well, I appreciate you having me on here, and I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah. Any last words you want to share with the audience? Where to find you or anything else?
Best way to get in contact, you can email me, Chris at chris-stanley.com. I know, really confusing. And then minibook.news you can also go to. And if you're like, that's still confusing, you can go to minibookpublishing.com and find anything. So minibookpublishing.com is kind of the traditional web home of it.
Appreciate it, Chris. Keep killing it, man.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. See you next time.